The house lay wrapped in stillness, broken only by the soft tick of a wall clock that echoed through every corner. In the living room, Detective James Miller sat slumped on the couch, the weight of his daughter's suffering pressing down on him like a stone. All night he'd replayed the kidnapping attempt in his mind, the terror in Emily's eyes, Sullivan's cruel smile, and the rush of sirens that had come too late to prevent her silence. Tonight, he wasn't the hardened investigator known for outsmarting criminals. He was a father grappling with helplessness. And down the hall, a dim nightlight flickered over Emily's bed, where her 5-year-old body lay curled beneath the covers, her wide eyes fixed on the ceiling. She hadn't uttered a word in weeks, and the sparkle that once danced in her gaze had been replaced by a hollow distance. Every therapist, every specialist, every family member had tried their best, yet Emily remained trapped in a world of fear. Would silence be her permanent shroud, or was there another way out of the darkness? Just beyond her door, Rex the German Shepherd rested on the carpet, his muzzle gently against his paws. Once a fierce 9 partner in James's unit, now retired, Rex had traded barking commands for quiet companionship. Each morning, he'd pad silently to Emily's room, settle by her threshold, and lie perfectly still. No nudges, no whines, just patient vigilance. His calm breathing seemed to whisper, "I'm here, you're safe." At first, Emily barely stirred. She pulled her blankets tighter, her eyes locked on the wall as if the world outside didn't exist. Yet Rex never wavered. Day after day, he shadowed her steps, perching by her feet at breakfast, trailing softly by her side when she ventured out, curling near her bed at night with ears alert but unintrusive. How could such a quiet presence hold so much power? Emily didn't know, but something in Rex's unwavering watchfulness was beginning to stir a change in her spirit. Then came the morning of the toy. Rex padded into Emily's room before dawn, leaving at her feet the warm stuffed rabbit she clung to as a toddler. Emily's fingers twitched imperceptibly. Hesitantly, she reached out, her small hand brushing the rabbit's matted ear. The gesture was so slight that James, standing in the hallway, could have missed it had Rex not let out a soft chuff of contentment. In that moment, James felt a shift beneath his ribs, as though hope had finally found a crack in the concrete of his heart. Over the next days, Emily's transformations grew bolder. She began to sit beside Rex, resting her cheek on his thick coat. She smiled, just a flicker, when he licked her hand or nudged her toy. Then, one twilight evening, when the sky outside turned that velvety shade between day and night, James heard a fragile whisper. "Rex!" Emily's voice emerged from the silence at last, and she wrapped her arms around her gentle guardian's neck. Tears sprang to James's eyes as he realized Rex wasn't just shielding Emily from danger, he was leading her back into the world. The courtroom buzzed with restrained energy. Reporters murmured from their seats, cameras ready, while officers stood guard at the doors. At the center of it all sat the man whose name sent shivers through the department. Richard Hale, known to the public as Sullivan, accused of a string of child abductions, including Emily's. James took a seat near the front, his face etched with controlled focus. Emily stood beside him, her frail figure pressed close, and at her feet sat Rex, alert and composed. The past weeks had brought Emily's first words, but now a new challenge beckoned, facing the man who had stolen her voice. When the prosecutor invited her to identify the perpetrator, Emily's small hand gripped James's finger as she rose to her feet. For a heartbeat, silence reigned so deep that even the judge held her breath. Then, in a voice clear and unsparing, Emily said, "That's him. He's the one." The words echoed through the hushed courtroom, and a wave of pride rose in James's chest, pride that burned brighter than fear. Yet, late that night, as James sat alone in the darkened living room, he couldn't shake the feeling that the story wasn't finished. He replayed Sullivan's smirk, the way his eyes had gleamed with secrets untold. Something in his instinct whispered that there was more to discover, a loose thread left dangling. Hours of poring over files yielded a cryptic reference to an abandoned property deep in the nearby forest, an address that hadn't appeared in any official report. Without hesitation, James called his trusted unit together, and at the front of the line stood Rex, eager and poised. The drive down the forest road was a descent into shadow. Tall pines arched overhead, blotting out the sun, while the dusty path wound and dipped into gloom. Every crunch of tires on gravel seemed to echo like a warning. Then, beyond a bend, the cabin appeared, a derelict skeleton half swallowed by brambles, its windows gaping like empty eye sockets. The breeze stirred the sagging door, which creaked with an accusing groan. James signalled to move in. With rifles raised, they advanced into the hush, but Rex darted forward, nose low, ears pricked. A low growl rumbled in his chest, and the officers froze, exchanging tense glances. James pressed forward and shoved the door open, the stale air inside swarming with the scent of rot. Shadows slithered across cracked wallpaper. Overturned chairs lay in eternal abandonment. There was a sense here that evil had been at home for too long. Then Rex's body tensed. He padded ahead to a heavy curtain crumpled in one corner, localizing what lay hidden. James peeled back the fabric to reveal a narrow staircase descending into dank darkness. A soft whimper drifted upward. Hearts pounding, James led the team down creaking steps into a cramped, windowless basement. There, huddled against a wall, sat a woman so frail her bones seemed paper thin. Her arms curled protectively around a toddler girl, their bodies' gaunt eyes hollow. The woman flinched as James knelt before them, but when Rex stepped close, his gentle gaze broke through her terror. "You're safe now," James whispered, lifting the child into his arms. The mother clung to his sleeve, her trust passing silently as they followed Rex back into the soft morning light. In the hospital's pale corridor, the beeping of monitors formed a steady pulse beneath the sterile white walls. In one bed lay Lena, her name written on a scuffed plastic tag. She slept fitfully, her cheeks sunken but losing their ghostly sheen. Beside her, a 2-year-old clutched a worn teddy bear, breaths shallow but steady. James perched on a nearby chair, exhaustion etched around his eyes. He hadn't left their side since the rescue, unable to shake the memory of their confinement. But he wasn't alone. Every morning Emily arrived, once broken by fear, now blossoming with compassion, bearing small tokens, a hand-drawn flower, a colourful toy, sometimes a note of encouragement. Rex lay beside Emily's chair, silent sentinel of this fragile fellowship. Nurses whispered of the miracle they witnessed daily, a wounded child restoring hope to strangers. Day by day, Lena's strength returned. Her daughter's cheeks bloomed with colour, and the girl learned to smile again. There were moments when Lena awoke, dazed by the unfamiliar surroundings, only to discover Emily gently grasping her daughter's hand, humming a soft lullaby. Rex's calm presence anchored every visit, his eyes meeting Lena's with unspoken reassurance. One evening, Lena opened her eyes fully and met James's gaze across the room. Something unfurled between them, a fragile bond of gratitude and something deeper, like the first bud of spring peeking through winter's thaw. Neither spoke, but the warmth in their smiles spoke volumes. In the quiet of that hospital room, Emily and the toddler became inseparable. The two girls, one 5, the other just 2, played quietly on the shared floor space, fitting puzzle pieces together as Rex lay watchfully between them. Their laughter, cautious at first, grew brighter each day, filling the room with a melody of healing. James found himself lingering long after visiting hours, drawn by the transformation unfolding before him. Emily's fearless care, Lena's blossoming hope, the toddler's blossoming laughter. It wasn't duty that kept him there, but a sense of belonging he hadn't felt in years. Then, one sunlit morning, James stood at the doorway as Lena helped her daughter arrange tiny puzzle pieces on the floor. Emily sat nearby, guiding each move with patient encouragement, while Rex's tail thumped a gentle rhythm. Clearing his throat, James stepped forward. "You don't have to go," he said softly, heart pounding. Lena's head tipped, surprise and relief mingling in her eyes as she looked at Emily, so eager for this new life, and at little Lucy clinging to her hip. "This house, this family, it's been missing something for a long time," he continued, voice steady. "We see how Emily cares for your daughter, how Rex won't leave your side, and I see it in myself. Stay, let's figure it out together." Tears welled in Lena's eyes and she nodded, voice barely above a whisper. "We'd like that." Weeks later, the Miller home hummed with a warmth it had never known. Morning sunlight poured through curtains as laughter trailed down the hallway, Emily chasing Lucy, Rex bounding behind them like a steadfast knight. In the kitchen, Lena and James moved in tandem, preparing breakfast with quiet smiles. They spoke little, for none was needed. The unspoken truth shone brighter than any words. Scars remained, Emily's trembling past, Lena's memories of fear, James's lonely years. But here, under one roof, they found that loyalty and love could stitch broken souls back together. And at the heart of it all was Rex, the silent guardian whose gentle persistence taught them that family isn't defined by blood, but by the hearts that choose to stay.